Minnesota is its lakes. Minnesota is its streams, its rivers.
We moved here for a reason. You know, clean water, big trees, clean air, and we can do something about the water.
Water quality is the most important measurement of the well-being of life up here. People come up here because of the clean water, and if that changes, the lifestyle will forever be changed.
I've been coming up here all my life since before I could even remember being up here. And I just like it. I love it. You can't get this anywhere else. It's really unique environment.
These are some of the cleanest lakes, I would say probably in the United States.
They're some of the most pristine lakes left in Minnesota, but they're also the most sensitive lakes to lose. In other words, we can't do very much to them before we upset them.
So if we kind of monitor it and keep an eye on it and know that things are going well, then if there's something happening, we can be able to jump on it before it becomes a problem.
We test the water to continue to put out the message of prevention.
You want people to take a personal interest in the lake that they're on. And once they do that, then, you know, keeping it pristine becomes a lot easier.
And so if they're going to keep track of stuff and make sure that the water is healthy all over the county, then of course they need to have volunteers. That's us. We're happy to do it.
If somebody doesn't step up and say, I've got a little bit of time, I can do that, how are we going to know how our lakes are doing?
They're vital to keeping our water clean because they are so passionate about it.
If we didn't have a body of people helping us collect this data, we wouldn't be able to move forward with the science as quickly as we are. So on many levels, it's really exciting.
My husband and I do it together, so we refer to ourselves as Mr. and Mrs. Water Quality Monitors for Hungry Jack Lake. We've been collecting water samples for, I think, 12 years now.
So monitoring starts every May. As soon as we can get into the water, sometimes we have to wait for ice to go out or weather, and then we end in September. We are on Seagull Lake, so that's the end of the Gunflint Trail outside of Grand Marais, and we are going water monitoring. Temperature is 21.27. Conductivity 0.036. The pH is 6.97. The dissolved oxygen is 8.46. So we're testing for quite a few parameters. We're looking at the transparency of the water using the Secchi disc. We use a YSI meter, and so we're looking at the depth profile of the lake, the deepest spot of the lake, and we're looking at the pH of the lake, and that'll affect your fish species. We're looking at the temperature. You can tell where the thermocline and the different layers of the lake are. We're looking at dissolved oxygen, also impacts your fish and aquatic species. And then conductivity, and that has to do with electricity in the water. We're also looking at phosphorus of the water, and then the level of chlorophyll A, which is the algae. We have really pristine waters up here, and so it's important to understand, first of all, why they're pristine, what are the numbers, what's the data telling us, how do we know it's pristine? And so this data is telling us that we have good water quality. And so then say we do this for a couple years, make sure there's no trends happening, things are looking good. And in a couple years we come back and we notice that there's a change, then we can often look to see on the landscape what's changed in the land that could be impacting the water quality.
This is a calcium sample taken at site 206. Thanks. Which meant I had to run halfway down the lake.
Right, on a beautiful day.
Oh, it was. We went out at 8 o'clock this morning.
Today was fantastic. I mean, we just came off a couple hours ago and it was dead calm and beautiful out, and it was really nice.
Brought our samples here. We bring our samples here every month.
When I pick up the materials and drop it off, I get to meet many of my neighbors that are doing the same thing. The county people that are involved in this project are very friendly and very supportive, so it's good to get together.
It's not a job, it's not a hobby, it's just something that's really the right thing to do. That's why we do it.
Number one, we like being out on the lake, and that's one reason that we volunteered, because we like to be out on the lake. And when we kind of do it as a team, it's not all on one person's shoulder, and you can kind of coordinate trying to get the water out of the lake and into the jars and that whole process.
You get hooked. This is, you start doing something and you see how it works and what it does, and then you want to do something else, and then you try something else, and it's fun. You get out there. You see the loons, while you're out there. You see a moose every once in a while. We've seen bear. There's all kinds of wildlife.
We're definitely looking for other people that would like to do it because it's fun to do. It's fun to get out in the lake and sort of play scientist, and we're more than happy to have other people join us, for sure.
As many volunteers as we can get, we will use them. Right now we have 11 lakes that we're doing, and then there's a lot of lake associations, and we work off of grant funding to be able to do the monitoring. And so when our funding is done, often these monitors will continue with MPCA using that SECI disc and continue to do some monitoring.
To see the growth of that process across the state over the years has really been just exceptional. And I think that's, that's part of why we still have exceptional water quality, is we've had so many people who care. It's why we've made so much progress as a state in terms of defining our standards.
It's education. We're learning new things that we otherwise would never know.
And it was interesting to find out about the water. And we learned a lot.
So it's just good to get a handle on what's happening with the water quality.
The data then gets put into the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's database, and then they can use that when they do analysis of the lakes. Other people can access the data too.
Now when you have more people out collecting in various places, you can get more data points, you can put those data sets together more quickly, and you can actually start talking about standards that we have never talked about. It isn't just chemistry, it's the biology of these areas. It's the overall use and condition.
You can go on the computer about 2 weeks later and actually see the results, and so it's kind of real-time feedback that you find out what's going on in the lake at that time.
The lake that we're testing it's a healthy lake, and so it's good to keep monitoring them and make sure they stay that way. Keep invasive species out.
And so we're doing lakes that we know have spiny water flea in it, that the DNR has said, and we're looking for it in lakes that hasn't been traced yet, just in case it does show up. So we have 11 lakes that we're doing with that. We're also sampling right now for calcium, which is important for mollusks and to grow their shells, so that would impact zebra mussels, and so we want to make sure that we don't have the calcium levels that could possibly allow for zebra mussels to grow. So our lakes, because they're pristine, we're up here in a state of protection instead of restoration, which is pretty cool. And so ways that we can help keep our water clean is having shoreline buffers. It's great, everybody has lakefront property, they want to be down on the lake and enjoying it, but if you leave that buffer there and you leave something to help filter all those nutrients and the sediment after rainstorms, slow that rainfall down, and just have a small trail, that's so much better for the lake and for the ecology of the lake, for the water quality. Other things you can do is capture your rainwater from your roof, so it's not sheet flowing down if you have a nice manicured lawn. Getting your septic system fixed to make sure it's not leaching out nutrients into the lake. That's one of our biggest issues up here. We have nutrient low lakes, which means they don't have a lot in there. They're in a really good state if you start to get into some of the science. And so when you start to add things like fertilizer from your lawn, nutrients coming from your septic systems, that changes your lakes, that changes the ecosystem. It creates more algae, it can increase your water temperatures.
It's great that attention is being drawn to preserving the water quality in Cook County. The support that we get from Cook County, especially the work that Elena is doing, that has been immeasurable. We used to be lone soldiers out there when we first started doing this.
I think people need to understand that it's not hard to do any of this. You don't have to have a fancy science background. The training that the Soil and Water gives you takes you out there, shows you what you need to do. It's very easy to use all of the tools that they give you.
They'll support you through the whole process, and it isn't like you're just out there by yourself trying to do this work. So there is support out there if you're interested in doing that.
The citizens who are attracted to living here really want to be connected to the environment.
It refreshes me and energizes my soul, really.
It's such a pristine lake. It's just, once you get out there, life is great.
If I didn't enjoy doing it, I wouldn't continue to do it. But I really do enjoy doing it.
It's really, really important to be mindful of taking care of the water.
It's really important and really stressed for people. Whatever you do on the land ends up in the water. And we also said to everybody, if we start to get bad results, it's too late.
This is one way to keep an eye on it and to find out that something is happening before it gets to the point that you can't correct it.
It's so easy for things to slip away, you know. There's some of the most beautiful water in the world, and there's the Holy Lake, Superior. And so it's important to take care of it.
And I think we can make a difference.